Hello, I'm Master Sergeant Melissa Rolon, and here's a quick look at what's coming up in this episode of Army Reserve Today. Never leave a fallen comrade. We'll show you how Army Reserve soldiers with Mortuary Affairs train to care for remains and fulfill their duty despite the sensitive nature of their operations. 2016 Olympic Games. An Army Reserve soldier makes his first appearance at the Games. We'll have more on his event and how he placed. Riggers. How they change the way packages and life-saving items are delivered overseas. All of these stories and more ahead on this edition of Army Reserve Today. Hello, and welcome to Army Reserve Today. I'm Master Sergeant Melissa Rolon. Thanks for joining us. We begin with our top story. In May, the Army Reserve announced their winners and runners-up at their Best Warrior competition. For these 4 soldiers, this was just another step in their long journey towards becoming the non-commissioned officer and soldier of the year for the entire Department of Army. Calvin Reimold has more on what these soldiers have been doing to prepare.
The road to becoming the U.S. Army's non-commissioned officer and enlisted soldier of the year is a work in progress. First, they trained for and competed at their command's Best Warrior competitions. Then, when the winners and runners-up at the Army Reserve Best Warrior competition were chosen, it was training, and more training, and more training. This year's Army Reserve Best Warriors and runners-up went to Fort Harrison at Helena, Montana for 3 weeks of intensive training preparing for the Army's competition. The runners-up had to be there alongside the Army Reserve Best Warriors, preparing in case one of them could not compete. It was hard work, a lot of bonding, and getting to know each other as a team while perfecting the skills the Army would test during the service-level Best Warrior at Fort A.B. Hill, Virginia. For these 4, moving from competitors to comrades has been a smooth and enjoyable transition.
The experience from competing against someone to now training with them has been, I think, pretty great. One of the soldiers, Specialist Deldano, is a medic. He's really skilled both on the civilian side as a paramedic and a combat medic on the Army Reserve side. And he's brought a lot of extra knowledge, as well as Drill Sergeant Moeller and Drill Sergeant Jones. They bring a lot of the drill sergeant knowledge, so if something may have been missed or they think they can add something, they've been able to give us a lot more information that when we were competing against them, they didn't tell us about.
I love the Army because even in something like this, which is an individual competition, the Army's a team sport. So anywhere you go, it doesn't matter what part of the country someone came from or what their background was, at the end of the day, you all bleed green. So we just kind of sort of fall into it like we're old friends.
Competing at the Army Reserve Best Warrior competition was not an easy task for these 4 soldiers. They not only had to balance between their civilian and military careers, they also had to deal with the stigma that they're not on the same level as their active duty counterparts.
There's a stigma around about the Army Reserve that the soldiers aren't, because they're part-time, they're not on the same level and everything like that. I've actually seen the opposite, and nothing could be further from the truth. It's been really, really pleasantly surprising to me how professional all the soldiers in the reserve are, because they not only have to be soldiers when they're called upon to do that, but they also have to balance an entirely separate life. And that has made some incredibly dynamic and multifaceted both soldiers and leaders I've seen around the force.
Competitions and training such as this help soldiers stay ready. While sweating on the dusty plains of Montana, they trained in tactics, techniques, and procedures they'll share with soldiers in their units at home. And it will make them better soldiers, more balanced as individuals, and improve the readiness of their units.
What's your last name?
Readiness is probably the second most important thing that comes out of a Best Warrior competition. Not only the soldiers' individual excellence in training, but they are able to take those skills back to their unit to be an asset to that unit individually, and also especially someone in my position as an NCO, a supervisor and a trainer, I can take those things that I've learned and seen at those competitions, especially competing against the other best warriors in the given command, to take back to my unit to improve our training as a whole.
This helps with my readiness because the Best Warrior competition embodies everything of what what a soldier should be. So me focusing and training and working on all of those skills definitely improves my readiness.
Though the road has been a long one, their journey is almost at an end. During the 3 weeks at Fort Harrison, The warriors not only learned from the Army Reserve drill sergeants and cadre training them, they also learned a lot from each other.
I'm so glad that the Reserve put this on, because if it was just going to be me training by myself, I probably would have done all right, but being able to, there's no substitute for going through the actual task itself with the equipment you're going to use, being trained by some of the best drill sergeants in the entire Army, whose sole purpose it is to prepare you for this competition. So all of those things wrapped up into one, the Army Reserve is definitely putting their best foot forward in terms of preparation.
These warriors are ready to compete and win at the Department of Army competition. They hope to continue the recent success the Army Reserve has enjoyed in the past several years at the Army competition. Only time will tell if they emerge victorious. From Fort Harrison, Montana, I'm Calvin Reimold.
The hard work on that long road to the Army's competition paid off for Sergeant First Class Joshua Moeller, as he was chosen as the 2016 U.S. Army Non-Commissioned Officer of the Year. Congratulations to our best warrior. Army Reserve Mortuary Affairs Specialists have one of the toughest jobs in the Army. These soldiers willingly choose this job and take pride in what they are able to do. Calvin Reimold has more on the unique training these soldiers receive during their Mortuary Affairs exercise.
Dignity, reverence, and respect. These three words are more than just a motto for Mortuary Affairs specialists.
Dignity, reverence, and respect, that is pretty much our way of life, and that is the way we conduct business. If it was me, I would like to be treated that way, and especially for those families, I'm pretty sure that they have loved ones that paid the ultimate sacrifice, and they wouldn't be expecting anything less than that from the Mortuary Affairs community.
This community trains alongside their active duty counterparts on a yearly basis in order to perfect their skills in bringing fallen heroes home. It takes a special soldier in order to do what is required of them.
They've got to have the heart to do it and the willpower to stand there and not back away from it, because it is something that we do for the families. I've always told my soldiers that I don't really work for that colonel. I don't work for the sergeant major. I work for that family in getting their loved ones home and closing that chapter of their lives.
Mortuary Affairs soldiers, they care what they do. They love what they do. They really are into their jobs, and no matter where they come from, they are willing to learn, and second, are willing to fix what they're doing wrong. And most important, that they are really love to provide the honor, dignity, and respect to those fallen heroes.
As force structure changes and the Army downsizes, the U.S. Army Reserve plays a more critical role in areas such as mortuary affairs, and many of these soldiers willingly volunteer for these duties.
The volunteer force that we have now, the reserve component, they don't join up just for any benefits. So I applaud them for volunteering for this type of work.
Through training exercises like this one, soldiers learn from their mistakes and provide the best care for these fallen heroes. It is not an easy job, but these soldiers take pride in their work with the utmost dignity, reverence, and respect.
It's not an easy job, and it's not just an ordinary job. We're willing to do what no one else is willing to do.
From Fort Pickett, Virginia, I'm Calvin Reimold.
Army Reserve engineers had the unique opportunity to clear the way for infantry soldiers by building an assault bridge on Lake Sandy at Fort McCoy, Wisconsin. Sergeant Bobby Statham has more.
When there is a big job to be done, the 652nd Engineer Company out of Hammond, Wisconsin is the unit to call.
Our mission today was to create a ribbon assault bridge across Big Sandy, so full closure, allowing the infantry unit that we're working with to go ahead and cross on foot so that they can disarm enemy cache, weapons cache across Big Sandy.
They hit the ground running. Everyone's real motivated to be out here, finally get to do our training. We only get it once a year, so I mean, this is the good stuff. To the Army Reserves, this as a whole is unbelievably important. This is the one time the soldier gets to see his small slice of the pie. It comes together to something a lot greater. So I'd say this is utmost importance.
That is important training to the Army Reserve to give us the opportunity to create our route capabilities, because we're one of the most important elements. The infantry can't get to where they need to go unless they have us clearing the way for them.
Don't drop it yet. Just make sure they don't drop it.
I couldn't be more proud of my soldiers. I think that when they come out here and put their game faces on, it shows the world that the Army Reserve soldier might be 1 weekend a month, 2 weeks in the summer, but when they come to work, and that's what they're showing us today.
Army Reserve soldiers working together to accomplish the mission. Reporting from Fort McCoy, Wisconsin, I'm Army Reserve Staff Sergeant Bobby Statham.
For Army Reserve soldiers with the 651st Quartermaster Company, training is usually centered around water purification. But this time, they got the chance to enhance their knowledge and skills with infantry training.
The 651st Quartermaster Company normally stays busy with water purifying operations. But today, they are conducting infantry training.
The big thing about this training is that everyone should start learning this, especially whenever they go on contact in different countries. If we take contact out when we're on the field, we get dismounted. We're gonna have to be able to clear a building in order to actually take refuge, just in case if something does go down.
Room clear. Set.
This training down here is vital to overseas. It's something that every soldier should learn how to do, no matter the situation, because one day you will be called upon to do one of the infantry movements that is required, because we're infantry first, MOS second.
Now you've got a lot of open area. That last man, you've got a lot of stuff to look at, okay? They can fire right down on you. You've got a lot of stuff to clear. So your security outside is paramount, because you got this level and you got the next level.
As an Army Reserve soldier, this is imperative to us. We only get to drill every so often each month, and once a year we only get to come out here for a few weeks to actually learn our MOS and our skill sets as a soldier.
Proving that no matter what the MOS is, we are soldiers first. Reporting from Fort McCoy, Wisconsin, I'm Army Reserve Captain Maria Olea.
Don't go away. Army Reserve Today will be right back.
My husband says I went a little overboard. Emergency flares, shovel, windshield scraper, toolkit, booster cables, blankets, first aid kit, and waterproof matches.
She packed everything but the kitchen sink.
Oh, and some waxing.
It's important to winterize your home. Have your heating system serviced professionally to make sure it's clean, working properly, and ventilated to the outside. Keep a safe, alternative heating source, such as a space heater or wooden stove. Have your fireplace and chimney inspected and clean. Install smoke and carbon monoxide detectors and test the batteries regularly. House safety. Are you ready or not?
Welcome back to Army Reserve Today. Army Reserve soldiers have a duty to serve as a soldier, but one leader chose to also serve his local community by helping to build a house for a family in need. Staff Sergeant Sgt Morris with the 99th Regional Support Command has more.
Dozens of community members came together August 13th to build a home for a family in need as part of a Habitat for Humanity project in Manahawkin, New Jersey. Taking part in this volunteer effort was Brett Eberlin, who serves as the Headquarters Company First Sergeant for the Army Reserve's 99th Regional Support Command.
Today what we're doing is a barn raising, which is essentially framing the house, building a house. We'll have the house built in one day. We strive to help families in need and who are willing to partner in the community.
As part of Habitat for Humanity's program, new homeowners are required to complete approximately 350 hours of community service, part of which is often spent helping build a home for another family. For First Sergeant Eberlin, working on projects with Habitat for Humanity is a natural fit for soldiers serving in a community-based force such as the Army Reserve.
I talk to soldiers about it all the time because it is a great way to get out and intermingle with the community, and not only can you help the community, but you can also help bring the Army story to the community. very few things in our life can we spend a few hours or a few days doing that will give us such a great sense of satisfaction when we stand back at the end of the day and look what we have done.
For the 99th Regional Support Command, I'm Sgt Morris.
All soldiers take an oath to never leave a fallen comrade, and Army Reserve soldiers with the 210th Regional Support Group take that oath to heart every time they do their job. Sergeant John Berry with the 206 Broadcast Operations Detachment has more on how soldiers train for ultimate recovery missions.
The warrior ethos states, "I will never leave a fallen comrade," and no one takes this more seriously than members of the 210th Regional Support Group.
In Mortuary Affairs is probably one of the most difficult jobs in the military. You just need to find the happy balance in itself and know what your equilibrium is, know what you can handle, and then at the same time challenge yourself as much as possible, because at the end of the day, even though you're a civilian, you're always going to be a soldier.
Members of the Mortuary Affairs team keep meticulous logs of all personal effects found on remains recovered from the field, logging the effects and recovering them for transport back to the Mortuary Affairs collection point.
And I think it makes us unique in a way, because once you do Mortuary Affairs, for example, every day, Monday to Friday, and this is the only thing you do, it's great, you're a subject matter expert. But for Reserve Corps inside, because we have a different job on the civilian life, we actually can bring that experience also. For me also to get experience and see the soldiers, work with the soldiers, because a lot of teams you can read, but hands-on experience you cannot get in the classroom. It's a small field, it's a special field, not everybody can do that.
The U.S. Army Reserve soldiers who make up the 210th Regional Support Group care for the remains and fulfill their duty, despite the sensitive nature of their operations.
A lot of soldiers feel uncomfortable, but it needs to be done.
Reporting from Fort Pickett, Virginia, I'm U.S. Army Reserve Sergeant John Berry.
An Army Reserve soldier from Millington, Tennessee, recently competed for Team USA in the 2016 Rio Games pole vaulting event. Master Sergeant Valerie Ressanetti with the 91st Training Division has more on this officer's first appearance in the Olympics.
If it were easy, everyone would do it. And for Olympic hopeful Sam Kendricks, this has never been easy.
When Sam started, he was very small, he was slow.
But his dedication?
Because I knew what it would take to attain higher heights.
And confidence.
I knew that one day, if I continued at it, I would continue to grow and I could be great.
Paid off.
Sam jumped 19 feet as a 19-year-old, and there's only about 3 or 4 people in history that have done that.
His athletic career started in the small town of Oxford, Mississippi. But there's nothing small about where it has taken him.
So I secured my spot on the Olympic team.
Or the pride of his community.
This is pretty amazing.
Oh, wow. That's somebody from my hometown. That's somebody that I know.
Monday, Army Reserve Lieutenant Sam Kendricks will take his place in the Olympic annals.
Now, when I have this USA across my chest, when I'm on the world stage, you could say, there will be people watching. And it's my responsibility to show that their expectations can be held with me.
And if he wins?
Well, I've had several gold medals around my neck before, but none of them have ever had the Olympic rings on them. In my experience, they're heavy, with expectation, with pride, with anticipation. I think an Olympic medal in itself would be even heavier. And watch that flag, and watch those people looking at you. I don't know what to expect, but I hope that my training will kick in at that point in time and I'll be ready for it.
Army Sergeant Valerie Ressanetti, Oxford, Mississippi.
Kendricks medaled in his event and is now off to conduct training at Fort Lee, Virginia. A high-level leader in the Army Reserve community recently visited the 99th Regional Support Command's equipment concentration site in Pennsylvania. Sergeant Russell Tough has more on how this visit highlighted the needs of the civilians' workforce.
Mr. James Malaki, Chief Executive Officer and Director of Services and Installations for U.S. Army Reserve, visited Equipment Concentration Site 24 in Fort Indiantown Gap, Pennsylvania on July 21st.
So to see firsthand both the condition of the facilities and maybe more importantly to talk to our civilian employees really gives me a sense for what their challenges are, things we're doing well, things we maybe need to do a little bit better at, and really to understand, where the needs of the organizational civilian population is at.
The visit included a town hall meeting with employees of the facility.
And that was the first time we had someone major come and talk to us about what's going on in the big scheme of things. So I thought personally it was really good.
While many across the country have been focused on a possible MilTech to DAC conversion, Mr. Malaki is focused on a more important issue affecting the reserve.
The first thing is it's all about readiness. It's all about being able to provide security when the nation calls, that the Army Reserve, our nation's Federal Reserve, is able to answer the call and is able to do what it is we're advertising to the America's people that we can do. And so if we can't do that, the rest of it doesn't matter.
Reporting from Fort Indiantown Gap, Pennsylvania for the 99th Regional Support Command, I'm Army Sergeant Russell Tuff.
Stay with us. Army Reserve Today will be right back.
What's a couple of shots I bought? None of us wanted to be the designated driver. So I thought I would just have a couple of drinks. No big deal. But it was a big deal. I drove off the road, hit a tree head on. I was in combat with these guys. Now they're dead, and I'm alive. And I have to live with that for the rest of my life.
Winter storms can sometimes leave you snowed in for days, so it's important to be prepared. Have rock salt or other environmentally safe products to melt ice on walkways. You can also use sand to improve traction. Have a snow shovel or other snow removal equipment standing by. Store a good supply of dry, seasoned wood for your fireplace in the event you lose power. Also have adequate clothing and blankets to keep you warm. Winter storms. Are you ready or not?
I didn't sleep well the night before, so I was already pretty exhausted when I woke up for PT that morning. And I worked a full day. And my first sergeant reminded me that I had staff duty. By the time I finished, I'd worked like 27 hours. I knew that I probably shouldn't drive. I just wanted to get home, go to bed. You know those little memorials on the side of the road? I hope they put one up for me.
Welcome back. An Army Reserve pharmacy technician recently got the chance to carry out a 2-week mission that allowed her to exercise her passion for people and the job. Sergeant First Class Sgt Black has more on how this soldier was able to serve the community in Vancouver, Washington.
Specialist Blanca E. Barnum is a pharmacy specialist in the Army Reserve. She's working at the medical clinic on the Fort Peck Indian Reservation in Poplar, Montana for her 2-week annual training. It's a job, she says, that takes a great deal of attention.
There's a lot of intricate detail that goes on in what we do. If any questions arise, then I'm glad to be there to help them.
When she gets time to interact with the local residents, she learns that some have served in the United States Armed Forces.
There have been many veterans that have come and just, congratulated us and just told us about their stories. It's been enlightening and it's been humbling.
It's a mission opportunity that the San Antonio native is proud to have taken part of.
It really is an honor. I wouldn't have it any other way.
I'm Army Sergeant First Class Sgt Black for the 215th Mobile Public Affairs Detachment.
Army Reserve military police with the 333rd MP Brigade recently conducted realistic gunnery training to improve readiness, capabilities, and their lethality. Staff Sergeant Sgt Morris reports from Joint Base McGuire-Dix Lakehurst, New Jersey.
Contact truck! Contact truck! 11 o'clock, 200 meters!
Soldiers from the Army Reserve's 333rd Military Police Brigade conducted gunnery training for the 340th and 423rd Military Police Companies August 6th through the 20th at Joint Base McGuire-Dix Lakehurst, New Jersey.
Gunnery is something that is new to this brigade. We really haven't had a company go through this before.
The purpose of the training was to build relevant, trained, and ready military police units that can be called upon to support the total Army and joint force in a complex and ever-changing environment.
Training readiness, as we move from RFRGen to a sustained readiness model, and these units actually still progress through these readiness gates. This very paramount for this particular maritime police company, because we don't know what the strategic environment may be 2-3 years from now when they actually are in that readiness window. If they do have a battlefield type mission, if you will, these concepts that they're learning here these 2 weeks will really be embedded with them, and they'll be able to be a ready unit, sustained, and capable of moving to any particular theater of operation.
Partnering with the Army Reserve during this training were Master Gunners from 1st Army, who provided expertise and guidance to their reserve component brethren.
Key to readiness is to have these guys come out here and learn what it takes to actually be able to secure themselves, in a deployed environment. We're out here for this week helping these guys get ready, and so far it's been nothing but a great experience.
For the Army Reserve, I'm Staff Sergeant Sgt Morris.
Operation River Assault is a joint training exercise that helps Army Reserve soldiers improve unit readiness. This year, the 467th Engineer Battalion from Millington, Tennessee, took the lead at Fort Chaffee, Arkansas, and built a temporary bridge for a river crossing. Staff Sergeant Sgt Freud with the 206 Broadcast Operation Detachment reports.
Recently, Army Reserve soldiers with the 467th Engineer Battalion out of Millington, Tennessee, led Operation River Assault, an exercise that focuses on building an improvised bridge across the Arkansas River. This event allows all units involved the opportunity to train on tasks they might not normally get to.
This is not a task they do every day, but it's an important task in the engineer world. So actually getting that hands-on experience in building the bridge, as well as working with different entities like active duty, working with reserve, working with Marine Corps, that joint effort.
The exercise brings together these elements in a way that is rare in a training environment. The different groups get the opportunity to work together the way they would when they deploy.
So when we look at the crawl, walk, run phase of any kind of training, one of the key aspects is getting that crawl in. And if this is the first time soldiers are building a bridge, it's good to get that in, because you don't want the first time being overseas under fire and figuring things out then.
Ultimately, the biggest takeaway for the soldiers that participated in the exercise is seeing that they can successfully accomplish such a difficult task.
Now, the biggest part to emphasize is the cooperation between the active, the reserve component, as well as a joint with the Marine Corps and their active and reserve components as well. You can't get that anywhere else, having that joint training together. It's difficult to find, and building those teams is quite a challenge, and then once it's built, it's the best thing there is.
Reporting from Fort Chaffee, Arkansas, I'm Army Reserve Staff Sergeant Sgt Freud.
Army Reserve parachute riggers in Al Udeid Air Base, Qatar, are experts at delivering the goods, but not in the usual way. Their job is to put what's needed on the ground by dropping it from airplanes at high altitude, traveling at speed into a very small landing zone. Staff Sergeant Victor Jacques of the Nevada Army National Guard's 17th Sustainment Brigade tells us how they do it.
From this warehouse in Al Udeid Air Base, Qatar, soldiers with the 824th Quartermaster Company, Detachment 1 riggers, are working an assembly line to prepare packages for delivery. And for riggers, delivery means dropping items from airplanes flying at 10,000 feet and placing them in a football field-sized landing zone. Sergeant First Class Brian Moss, Detachment NCOIC, says riggers provide commanders life-saving options.
Aerial delivery gives the commander an additional option to speed resources to the warfighter at the front when conditions are such that they can't run a convoy, or the lift capacity of an aircraft will not allow the aircraft to get into the area.
To determine the type of parachute and bundle to be used, riggers consider the items being dropped, the height of the drop, terrain, enemy activity, and the aircraft's approach. Preparing the package for delivery is grueling, demanding work. Soldiers use over 20 knots per package to combine the energy-dissipating material, a honeycomb of cardboard that absorbs the impact of the drop, the container delivery system, which holds the supplies, and the parachute. It's hard work, but these soldiers know their efforts ensure that the warfighters in harm's way have the supplies they need to survive.
And that will do it for this episode of Army Reserve Today. For more information about the Army Reserve, check us out online at www.usar.army.mil, friend us on Facebook, or follow us on Twitter at U.S. Army Reserve. From Fort Bragg, North Carolina, and the U.S. Army Reserve Command, I'm Master Sergeant Melissa Ralline. Thanks for watching.